Dr. Kordeš, who is visiting from Ljubljana in Slovenia. And I'm very happy to have him here for several reasons. You know, this is a transdisciplinar seminar. You know, so with your profile, your academic profile, and I would like you to tell us something about you yourself. He comes from physics, you know, and ended up in a lab of empirical phenomenology that he founded, you know. So I think he has to tell us a lot about what he's done in general, you know, with his trajectory as a student and then as a researcher, and also as an administrative, right?
Which is my main job, yeah.
Yeah, well, welcome to the club. Yes.
If you need information about administration, I can talk it all day, no problem.
And also, another reason is that the title he sent to us, you know, includes phenomenology, cognitive science, that we can handle, right? I mean, some people say phenomenology, and Dr. Claire Petit-Mangin, you know, told us about that in the colloquium. But now we have a new word, spirituality, you know, and I think that's very, very brave of you, and I think it's necessary to also hear about that, you know, that type of concept, and I really look forward to hearing what you have to say about that, and we all, I'm sure, also look forward to it. So, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you Juan for inviting me. I would really like to thank you. It's been, I'm here for a week now, I think, less than a week, and I feel like it's like years. So Juan, I'm quite privileged to be here, and thank you for coming, especially the students. I think students are there. Can you understand English? With exception.
We have two colleagues there and one colleague here, two colleagues here, you know, another colleague, and then I think all the rest are students.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So
why don't you raise your hand, students, please?
Yeah. And you are all invited. I am a head of the joint program of cognitive science in Slovenia. So if you want to see how the cognitive science works elsewhere, you are completely invited to come, and we will host you. But of course, that goes for professors as well. So so just before we go with the lecture, I am a physicist by basic education. I did theoretical mathematical physics, but parallelly I was already studying philosophy of cognitive science. And I wanted to do the interdisciplinary studies, but it was not possible like 20 years ago in Ljubljana. So Ljubljana, Slovenia. And so I was able to create that kind of study. First I my doctorate was in I did neural networks and philosophy and some neuroscience and sort of merged them in a PhD. And then I managed to, with colleagues from Vienna, I managed to form a study program of cognitive science, which is very, very, very interdisciplinary.
And it's also given by 4 universities.
It's interdisciplinary and joint. You don't have this concept here, but in Europe this is like a new concept. It means that you study at more than one university. So our study program, our students study at Ljubljana University, Vienna in Austria, Bratislava in Slovakia, and Budapest in Hungary. And when they finish, they get they have diploma with 4 logos. So they actually finished study at 4 European universities. So this is the new thing in Europe. It's very complicated. So students don't have to go to all of the 4, but at least 2. So you cannot just be at one place and study 2 years master's program and that's it. You need to go at least for half a year, but normally for a year somewhere else. So it's very complicated, but we really try to ensure that all areas of cognitive science are represented.
And so they do it in English?
We do it in English. In Slovenia, first year is still in Slovene, because in Vienna they changed it also the first year to English, and now they have like 150 or 200 applications, because it's quite a known programs from America, from Russia, from Australia. So we don't want, we want to, for now, keep it for Slovenian students. So we didn't change it first year to English, but perhaps at some point we will. So that's how this program works, and we try really to make it like interesting. So it's not just neuroscience. You know, now neuroscience is very popular and it's really good and does a lot of stuff, but it's not just, I mean, we have a lot of neuroscience, of course, but it's not just. You can also study linguistics, you can study AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, you have to study all that in the first year. You have to study, we first check the background of the student, because this is a master's. If you, for example, are philosopher, you will get some programming, you will get some neuroscience, you will get some psychology. If you are a psychologist, you will get some philosophy, you will get some linguistics, and so on. So we try to sort of put everybody to approximately equal grounding on the first year.
Who decides that?
For Slovenian students, students have to give, when they enroll, very detailed description of what their background is and what their interests are. And we try to mix this, you know. We try to give them the education that is missing, but also let them, if they really want to do neuroscience, we will leave them a lot neuroscience. You know, if they really want to do something else, they will be able to do, but they have to learn this. For example, philosophers hate programming. Mm-hmm. They are afraid of getting into computer algorithms. They have to do it, you know. Or for example, if we get more natural sciences, like medical doctors, they are really not interested in experience. But my program is the only one in this consortium that we have a course also on a first-person research, on what I'm going to lecture today, you know. So I have this and they have to do it, you know. So medical doctors, they would just like to do neuroscience, perhaps some psychology. Yes, do it, but also do some experience research. So this is the first year. And then second year, you actually choose what, there you are quite free, you know, and you have 4 universities to choose from, so you see which one is the best in your field, and you go there. So that's the idea of this program. We really want to keep it interdisciplinary in the way that no discipline is preferred. You know, you can prefer it personally, but the program does not prefer it. Wow. So yeah, but you need to get all of that, you know. So that's the...
And the thesis work? You do a thesis?
Yes, there is a thesis at the end of the program, which is the part of the second year. So you do it wherever at the university that feels your needs most. For example, Ljubljana has good phenomenology and neuroscience. So you can do it, people come here to do a thesis. For example, Vienna has a lot of good things. Vienna University is huge, but they are really, really good in animal psychology. So if you want to talk with crows or dogs, this is the place to go, and so on. So, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what I do normally, and I'm a manager, and I'm trying to get rid of this managing position, but I haven't succeeded yet. But I also do a little bit of research, and research is about experience. So obviously my path went from being a theoretical physicist, but I was already, when I was studying physics, I was doing neural networks. I was modeling natural phenomena, but then I switched to mind. And then I felt completely unsatisfied that we are just modeling some sort of behavior here, but not what I supposed to be a mind. But so far, at that point, I never heard about experience, you know. So, but then I met Heinz von Förster, and through him I read Varela, and so on. So I learned, oh wow, we can talk about experience in cognitive science, and this is what I was missing. So that's how I went from theoretical physics to neural networks to experience research, which is what I do like 15 to 20 years. And I was completely inept in this part, you know. So from modeling, from sitting behind a computer and programming in C, I had to talk to people. That was a big challenge for me. So I studied interviews and a little bit of psychotherapy with Paul Václavík in Palo Alto, and you know, so I just caught him. Then he died quickly. He was very old, but it was quite interesting. So slowly, I got into this strange, weird field. And now perhaps we can start the lecture. So my plan is, I would like to show you what we are doing. But this is just, if you survive first, let's say 45 minutes or something, then you will get to that, I promise. But I would like to introduce the field of first-person research. I will call it first-person research or empirical phenomenology. For me, this is almost the same. Perhaps first-person is more wide. You will see, I will explain later why there's a tiny difference. But what I mean is researching experience. I think all of you were to class lecture. I don't know about your lecture, I'm sorry, but probably you were also tackling this. So this is what I mean. I mean researching lived, subjective experience, okay? So, as I told you, 25 years ago, I had no idea that this exists. And my sense is that most of us still don't know that there is such a thing as subjective experience. And perhaps as a start, I could show you this example. You all heard about default mode networks. Have you heard about? You be free to say no, please, because so this was discovered in the early 2000s or late 90s by some guy called Reichel, a neuroscientist, American neuroscientist, and others. And it became a big thing. As you see, this is a cover of Scientific American. So this is a network of brain centers that start working in coordination when people do nothing. Okay? So approximately. So it's a really interesting thing, you know. If I talk to you now, probably my default mode network is passive. But if I see it, I think some of you already activated the default mode network, and this is really interesting. And what they said is, you know, because it was found out by by accident, this connection. Why? Because there was no psychological instrument or psychological way to enhance it. Because the definition is that it happens when you are not doing your task. Before that, we only knew how to study stuff that was elicited by a task. For example, you went into the scanner, moved the finger, and then you see premotor cortex is working and motor cortex and so on. Or I don't know, imagine talking about blah blah blah, and then you see probably speech centers are working and so on. But if there is no task, how will you notice this? And I said, what is this? What is going on when the default mode network is active? And Reichel said, I think this is mind wandering or daydreaming or something like that. And I've been, in 2000 something, I don't know, I've been to a conference in Tucson, Arizona, where one psychologist went and searched all the psychological available literature, all the best publications, to see how much mind wandering is mentioned. And what do you think how much? It was 2002 or 3, something like that. It was mentioned in 0.02% of papers, of psychological papers, and that was just mentioning by the way. And we now know that mind wandering is like at least 50%. You know, some say 40, some say 60, let's say 50% of our mental activity. So how is it possible that for all the 100 years of psychology, this was not seen, this was not observed? If this is our main mental activity. To me, this is a huge mystery, and I would like, in this lecture, to sort of unveil this mystery. I would like to propose some hypothesis. Why this mystery is? Why is this so? You know, since then, now this is a big area, researching mind wandering. We discover it. Oh, mind wandering is going on. Fantastic. Let's study mind wandering. But how come that we didn't notice it? For 100 years, nobody noticed mind wandering. We were doing all kinds of strange action potentials. We did a lot of, in psychology, all of this, what is it called, the reaction times and all this kind of memory, other kind of memory. But mind wandering, being the most prominent phenomena, most obvious phenomena, we didn't notice it. And furthermore, I think not only science doesn't notice it, I think we don't notice it. We don't notice it in our everyday life. And I will now be a bit broad, mind wandering, just one part of our experience, one way of unfolding our experience. So my question is, how come that almost nobody notices and cares about experience? How is it possible? How is it possible that you might go through your studies of psychology, of neuroscience or something, and not even notice that we are experiencing? To me, this is the grandest mystery. The grandest mystery. And I will try to offer you 3 possible answers for that. I talked about that with Claire, and she gave me the 4th answer, which I think is probably the best, but she should tell you about it. But I will try to go through 3 possible answers. So, why nobody cares about experience? And in order to sort of indicate indicate the first answer, I need to tell you a story. So, do you understand me? Is it sort of, yeah, okay, yes? Okay, no. Thanks. So, because this story will challenge you for an answer. So, it was like many years, this is a true story, by the way, many years ago it happened. This is Ljubljana center, old medieval center of Ljubljana, a cafe there. It was not happening in this cafe, but the cafe that this story happened is already closed, regretfully, so I have only this photo. But something like that. So I was sitting with my psychologist friend Matej at the table like that, and he just went into Buddhism. He was studying Buddha's scriptures and so on, and he said, Urban, did you know that all this is an illusion? And I said, what do you mean illusion? He said, yes, this is illusion, this is Maya. We just think that there is walls, and this is all consciousness, this is all illusion. And I said, you got completely crazy. You are scientists, what are you talking? You know? And I bumped with a fist on it, I said, look, this is reality. And the next moment, I woke up. And I woke up in my bed, it was 8 o'clock. This is not my bed, but something like that. It was a little bit cold. The phone was ringing, the alarm was ringing. And I was in my house in the little village, and I knew this was just a dream before. So my question for you is, what remained the same? Not what changed, this is obvious, but what remained the same between this experience and this? So you're challenged. And I can see.
You was dreaming.
Yeah, sorry?
You was dreaming.
So here and here.
Yes. You was dreaming in your bed.
Well, I'm sorry to sit because I have a low pressure and I have to sit from time to time. But my impression was that here, yes, I was dreaming. Here I was awake. So let's say that it was like that.
Yes.
What remained?
What remained?
Qualia.
Qualia. But both was experience. Yes, we agree it was both experience. There was something going on in my consciousness. What else?
Consciousness?
Yes, but yeah, qualia, consciousness, yeah. But what was the characteristic of consciousness that remained? Some part of, obviously here I believe, oh, I am in Ljubljana drinking tea with my friend and being angry at him. Here I said, oh, I'm in my bed and it's cold and blah, blah, blah. So obviously the story was completely different, but something remained. I remained. I think I remained. So this is a good answer, but something else.
The awareness of something?
Yeah, qualia, consciousness, we agree. The awareness was, I was aware at both times.
Also experience.
Yes, experience, qualia. We are now a bit hazy about the terms, but this is pretty much all the same. Yes, I agree. Both was experience. I have the sense that it was the same me, although this is very questionable, but I don't want to go there.
Well, if you think it was the same you, then you think in each episode that it was the same reality.
Not the same.
But
Well, it was.
But reality.
What reality?
Yeah, so in both, bravo, in pair you made it. So in both cases, I believe that what I'm perceiving is the information about reality, as it is. So I was believing in both cases that what I'm going through, I have information about the world as it is. Do you agree? I mean, I can tell you, I promise it was like that. So, so this belief, you will see, if you examine your lives, this is one of the most common characteristics of our experience. And Husserl, this guy, called it natural attitude. So natural attitude remained with me and remains even if I take the most hallucinogenic stuff, or if I dream very crazy dreams. I used to dream how I ride a dragon about some pinky clouds. Oh, so this is reality. Or if you talk to people who are really deep into, let's say, LSD or something, they would say, or meditational, mystical experiences, they would say, now the real reality is revealed. So even if you go as crazy as possible, you still keep the natural attitude. So natural attitude is some part of, is some characteristic of our experience that remains with us almost all the time. I have a case of epileptic seizure patient who loses it for a second, sometimes after the seizure, but most of the time we are constantly in this belief. So this is a belief that, I will tell more, but you can read it, I'm not going to read the quotations. Husserl named it natural or everyday attitude, and he discovered that this is like the common basic position from which we are sort of relating to our experience. So we are always relating to our experience as an information about the actual existing world, which is independent of our experience. Okay? So natural attitude. So just let me repeat a little bit characteristics of this natural attitude. So it seems to us that our consciousness is a window out to information. You know, that there is also a word, by Brentana, it's intentional, doesn't matter. But so we believe that we are seeing everything as it is. We believe that this window doesn't require us to do anything. We just get stuff. We don't need to do something in order to see one and the camera and so on. We just get, it just comes to us. I open my eyes, I open my senses, and I get the information of how the world is outside. I also get information about self. I don't want to go there, it's a bit more complicated, but still, also my information about self seems to be there. I can look and I see how I am. So it's not just about the outer world. Okay? So this is the characteristic of this, this attitude that Husserl called natural attitude. We believe that our consciousness is an open window and we just get the information. We don't have to do anything, and that's it. Also, another characteristic is that we get constantly concentrated into stories, into what. I am interested in what is there, what is going on, what. Okay? So we are not so much interested in how things are presented to us. But what is this? What is being presented? What is me? What is going on? Okay? So these are the characteristics of natural attitude. So, so this can pose us one answer to my question from the beginning. This natural attitude sort of acts as a cloak. Did you read Harry Potter? Some of you read Harry Potter. There was this invisibility cloak, you know, that you could, and you became invisible. So natural attitude acts as a cloak to make us blind to our experience. Our experience seems to be just a medium, you know, like the air. We don't care about it. We just see stuff. And when I say stuff, I don't mean just outer world, also us. Okay? So this is one of my first answer. Why don't we see experience, despite being here all the time? Okay, did I make any sense so far? Okay, so this is, the sense is there is nothing to see here, you know. If I lecture about experience to medical doctors, they say, yes, but this is neurons or something like that, you know. They can't find it interesting. It's like talking about air here, but we see that there are people and chairs which are so much more interesting, okay? So this kind of attitude. Okay, so now this is a brief interruption. So this is just as an education, so you will see what we are doing when we are doing research of experience. Now, as we know that this is a cloak, that this is not the presentation of reality, that there is no experience, that we can see everything as it is. But this is just our belief or attitude. Now we can do something with it. Okay, and this was the grand help from phenomenology, from Husserl. You know? Because it's not just that now we know why people don't know this experience. Now we have an idea how we can get to it, how we can notice it. Okay? So what should we do? So before I said I was cold, there was a cafe, my friend was crazy, alarm clock was ringing, there was a bed, and so on. All these things, what was around me. But now I can do something. If I am aware that this is just a sort of indication of natural attitude, I can bracket it. That doesn't mean that, please, this is very important for very rationalist people. Doesn't mean that I say this is not true. I just want to put it, Husserl said, put it out of action. Bracket it, you know? And the word is epoche. I just want to say, okay, so what if I am aware that all these are beliefs? What do I learn? What do I learn? I learn that I can see or I can feel the bed. I believe I'm sitting in a cafe. I think my brain is mistaken. I can hear and so on. So what are all these? What is see, feel, believe, think that we forgot before? These are all experiences. So what presents to you, if you bracket natural attitude, is that everything is experience. That you don't need to go to some lab and find it in Caudatus or in whatever in the brain. That everything is experience. Yes?
Well, George Berkeley said pretty much that, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah.
In the sense that
Yeah,
everything comes to be an idea of the mind, right? So, probably, I mean, I don't, this is not the time for questions. But
ask away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but someone could say, well, that's what Berkeley said, and that he was an idealist. So, in this sense, how do you distinguish those beliefs or experiences from Berkeley's in order to guarantee a reality or a material reality? Because he denied that part, and you're not denying that.
What we are, this is very, I mean, Husserl spent, I think, half of his career answering this question, trying to show that this has nothing to do with idealism. That was his most prominent attack, and what we are doing is, we are agnostic about reality. We are epistemology. We are not. We don't care about is there real reality or not. We need to understand. We need to understand how the reality works in order to survive. So obviously there is something. You know, Husserl was very realistic. Actually, he would say more. He would say, of course there is reality. I don't know. You know, but I think better than Berkeley is Descartes, of course. Descartes said, at some point, I will see what are in his second meditation, in which things I cannot doubt. And he saw that in reality you can doubt. It's a belief. It's a very useful belief, but it's a belief. You cannot prove to me that there is a reality. It can be just a dream, you know. As you said, perhaps both of those were dreams, you know. Okay? So there is if somebody manages to prove that there is a reality, or manages to prove there is no reality, there has no concern for us here. We are just interested in finding experience. And if we bracket natural attitude, we find it everywhere. Everything is experience.
So it's not an ontological issue, but an epistemological one.
Exactly. We are completely sort of ontology free. In research of experience, might it be philosophical or empirical research of experience? The domain we are studying is here constantly. So that's why, by the way, and Claire said this quite nicely, introspection is not a good word to say what we are doing. We rather say reflection. Or Claire said coming in contact with experience, which is much better than introspection, because you don't have to go intro. You can go and see your feelings or whatever, but experience how this space is being constituted in my experiences as well as experience. Much more interesting, perhaps sometimes. Okay, so this is how we find it. I just wanted to say this. So we bracket natural attitude. It's called epoche. Bracketing doesn't matter. And then we see, our laboratory is there all the time. I don't need to be in Ljubljana. I have my study field with me constantly. I have nothing but my study field. Okay? Right. So just one more. So what happens is, and that's why if you were there, I had an objection to our dear professor, I forgot his name again, the last speaker of the economics. Jose Luis, because he said this function, he said we have to be flexible. I'm not sure if we can be so flexible here, you know, because this is like this optical illusion. You either see a vase or you see two faces. Either you see everything as an experience or you see everything as things. It's really probably impossible to have both pictures at the same time. You know, so when you go, for example, if you meditate or if you have some experience, you will see that everything is now experience, becomes fluid, and you can see it as experience, as part of this consciousness. But normally in everyday life there are things around you. Okay, and this is so. And then there is Claire also mentioned there is a heuristic how you can get towards experience and away from this natural attitude is to ask how. So you say, oh, this is a chair, and you can ask, how do you see this chair, or how do you experience this chair? And they'll say, oh, red. How do you experience? And you can go infinitely in depth with this kind of question. It's a heuristics. It doesn't work here, or sometimes you can how are the chairs lined up here, and it's not so it's not a perfect way, but this is one of the really good heuristics how we can navigate toward experience from natural attitude. Okay, just so you see how we do the interviews, how we ask ourselves. Okay, so first lesson is that empirical phenomenology, as I'm calling our kind of research, is really grateful and based on philosophy, on phenomenological philosophy. But it is not a philosophy. Okay? So if you remember, that lecture is that triangle. Philosophy, cognitive neuroscience or psychology, and spirituality. So now we know the relationship towards philosophy. It is very grateful, very much based on one particular kind of philosophy, but it's not philosophy. Why? Because we want to get empirical data. We want to gather the data. We don't want to just think about the stuff. Okay? So it's not philosophy. Right. So that was the first third of the lecture. You're still alive? Some questions? You're still breathing? Okay. Right. Okay. So let's see if there are some other answers to the question why we don't see experience. Is there some other answer beyond natural attitude, beyond this epistemological answer? And I would like to tell you the story about Eurostar. Do you know what is Eurostar? You know, I'm sure, because you were... Eurostar is a train between Paris and London, goes under the British Channel, and it was a big thing when they dug the tunnel, and it enabled a really quick travel. But at some point, the directors of Eurostar, and because they wanted to, I don't know, whatever, to improve the train, they said, we will improve this Eurostar thing very much. So they invested $6 billion pounds to make it faster. Because that was the only way how they saw the train could be improved. Okay? At the end, this was $8 million. And then, billion to the 10 to the 9 billion pounds. So they managed to make it half an hour faster. Okay, for 9 billion pounds. And then there was, and this is coming from Rory Sutherland. It doesn't matter if you don't know him. He's a PR man, but a big fan of science and friend to all famous scientists. And he tells this story in this book. So, but then somebody discovered that if you just installed a very good Wi-Fi into the train, the experience of traveling between Paris and London would improve much, the 2 degrees of magnitude more than this half an hour travel time. But nobody thought of that. Do you see what I mean?
No, can you say that again?
Nobody thought of that what we are trying to improve is the experience of people traveling, not some engineering measurement, which was the only measurement they could find out was the length of time. So they spent $500,000, so 500,000 pounds, for just installing a great internet. And the experience of travelers improved like many times over the experience of getting half an hour shorter journey. But because we have this engineering mind that only valid things are those that you can count, we don't care about experience. And I call this scientist. No, well, Nassim Taleb, if you read Black Swan, he calls this scientist. I took him from this from him. So the second answer to my question is scientism. What I mean by scientism, I mean attempting to use methods that look like real science because you have measurement and all this speed and calculations in order to research phenomena that don't fit. So you rather look under the light because there is light instead of this corner where you actually lost your keys. This is the science. Okay, let me give you some more examples. Can I? We can skip that, but there are some nice examples about science. Okay, can you manage half a more hour? Okay. So for example, this one, I think, I like this one. So this was in Australia, a couple of years ago, I don't know, I think, 2007, obviously. I don't know, you have here Nurofen, we don't have it in Europe. It's a painkiller. And in Australia you could buy Nurofen for menstrual pain, Nurofen for headaches, Nurofen for muscle pain, Nurofen for something else, okay? And you could also get like a normal Nurofen, okay? And the normal was much cheaper than the others. But people, but the consumer society realized that these more expensive Nurofens, like specialized Nurofens, contain exactly the same thing as a normal Nurofen. And they sued the company who was making the Nurofen and won, got $6 million, nothing for this pharma company, but they had to pay and they had to remove all these specialized Nurofens. But what happened then? What do you think happened? When those were removed, just the normal one remained. When all these that were high-priced were removed. But the normal one had exactly the same content. What do you think happened?
People didn't feel as relieved.
Exactly. People start complaining, no, I want my migraine Nurofen because it really helped me. This doesn't help me at all. So, what does it mean? So what is the true solution? What do we study here? Is it really ingredients, the chemical ingredient, or something else? And it's something else. And of course, this is just a funny example, but imagine neuroscience. Neuroscience, or neurology, science of the disease of the brain, has about between 500 and 600 diseases. And in the last 100 years, which saw the biggest improvement of neuroscience, we couldn't heal even one. So all this improvement is great, and I am a big fan, by the way, of neuroscience. But we could not heal completely. We can remove tumors much better. We have some much better medication, but we cannot heal dementia. We cannot heal seizures. We cannot heal MS and so on. So what about we just check experience of these people? You know, and I am absolutely sure because I have one of the. That's why I'm sitting, because I have problems with balance. I know that. So obviously, neuroscience can help me here. I have some mismatch in my brain, so I have problems with balance, but I can do something about it. I can search my experience and see what fits, what doesn't fit, and so on. But that's not scientific, so nobody does that. Nobody actually studies placebo from an experiential point of view. We do. There are studies of placebo from the third person point of view. But what is the experience? What does it need to happen in order to be healed, you know, without medications? What happened to these people who were healed or at least helped by Nurofen migraine and not helped by the normal Nurofen? What happened to them? This is experience study, and it's not being studied because it's not scientific. It doesn't look scientific because you have to ask people and so on. And for example, there is this. We know now that if people that are coming to medical facilities, let's say for a doctor appointment, and let's say they have to wait for 2 hours. If you, after 1 hour, and it's a very traumatic experience to wait, you know, in these waiting rooms and everything causing, I think we all had this experience. But if you, after 1 hour, call the person, Aviva Berkovic Johanna, you are here, please come with me. We are not ready yet, but just come into the next waiting room. the experience improves 70%. And I talked to I have lots of colleagues at the biggest medical facility in Slovenia, in clinical research center, and I said, look, just do that. Just divide the room by 2, and after half of the waiting time, invite people to the next room. And their experience improves dramatically. And he said, this is cheating, what is this? What is this? Nobody would even consider it, So let them suffer. And we don't see the experience for our own parent, I would say. Okay, so let's go a little bit to science. And this, I think, is the biggest, the most horrible example of scientism. This is the nature of human behavior. If you plan to become scientist, or if you're a scientist, this is your biggest, if you publish here, you won, okay? So, let me read you the scope. So, the title of the journal is Behavior, obviously, human behavior. Let's see this. What does it say? What are we interested in? We are interested in any aspect of individual or collective human behavior. What is that? How do humans perceive, think, feel, decide, and then act? So, perceiving, thinking, feeling, decide, this is behavior. Is that behavior? What kind of behavior is your thinking now? This is not a behavior, this is experience by definition. But they cannot make themselves to utter this word. So in the best possible journal, they cannot understand that this is their first, second sentence of the scripture is completely wrong. It's unscientific. Because it would not seem correct if they said we are interested in human experience. Okay? I guess this will change, by the way. Okay? But this, I think, is a really very and I think this is changing now.
Well, if you think of Skinner's take on cognitive science,
Yeah, this is the reflection still.
Then exactly, then you can.
These are the karma of behavior. Yeah, we are still paying it. Okay. Yeah. But by the way, Claire's method was already published here. Okay, so we are getting somewhere. But to me, this is still there. I checked on the homepage. But we are getting somewhere. And by the way, in last, I don't know, last 10, 15 years, the research of mind wandering became explosion. Everybody's doing. Our dear colleague Moshe wrote a very popular book about mind wandering. Moshe Bar from Israel, previously from Harvard, I think. So this is now a big thing. So something is going on. Claire has a problem because so many people want her type of research and so on. So I think this is happening. This is happening, but still not happening enough, or perhaps the right way. And here I'm coming to the third answer to my question. So scientism, I think, is a big problem, but there's another big problem, and this is in the title of my lecture. Researching experience is very strange, very, 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 very strange. And I would like to invite you now into this strangeness. So perhaps up to here I made you enthusiastic, or perhaps I have to study experience, perhaps this is important. But now I will completely destroy this because you will see how really difficult it is. Okay, so why is it difficult? So now I would like you, can you just drop the phone for a second? I would like you to do an exercise. Just for 1 second. Can you find in your experience the experience of your belly? Don't do anything, don't sit, don't meditate. Just find the experience of your belly. Can you do it? Somebody didn't manage to find it? That would be a problem. Yeah, okay, so I guess you all found the experience of belly. Now answer the question. Think about it. Was that experience there before I asked you to find it? I don't answer people that had a belly pain or something, or the whole day. So was the experience there before I asked you? Or was the experience constructed by observation, by finding that? Or perhaps there is no way to answer this. So who would say the experience was there? I just looked the right way and I found something that was there. So who would say A? Obviously not you, but who would say A? Nobody. Okay, who would say B? I constructed the experience. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? The rest of you are undecided. Or not undecided. You think this is impossible to know. Okay, so and probably the third one might be the ultimate answer. You know? So this is the weird part of researching experience. You know? It seems that we do something to experience when we are researching. If you doubt it, but there was only I think one who chose one. If you doubt that our observation, our, I will call it gesture of observation or act of observation, does something to experience, then just keep on observing your belly. And try observing it in a mindful, relaxed way, or observe it in a sharp, examining way. And you will see that the experience will change. As your observation continues or changes, the experience will change. So obviously, we do something to our experience by the act of observation. Yes?
If you chose C, in the sense that it could be both, then that is A and B, then you have to admit that there's unconscious experience or non-conscious experience, right? Because of A, that's what implies.
Yes,
And
no. It's a perfect question, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a perfect
it
question.
shows that
Yeah.
I have never understood what
Yeah.
non-conscious experience can ever mean.
Yes, me neither. Me neither. But you allow for it, for the C. You don't, it's again, you don't say there is one, but say you're in the third way, in the third option, you're agnostic about it.
Right.
It might be something, what does it mean? I don't know. We talk about pre-reflective
It's probably
experience.
there already, or probably
Something
I bring
is
it
there,
about.
perhaps, but where and what?
Yeah.
But what we know is that you cannot observe it independently. The only way to get to it is by your reflection. So you will never know, was it constructed or was it partially obtained. And by the way, you heard perhaps for some guy called Francisco Varela, he invented the word inaction. And when he describes this, the term, when they describe it in the embodied mind, they say, we would like to find a position between egg, the middle position, between egg position and chicken position. And I think what they mean, I don't want to put my words into his mouth, but I use inaction exactly in that way, you know, as an epistemological middle ground. It is, so you do something to something, but you also perhaps there is something out there that you catch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I use the term enaction, you know, enacting experience. I find it most appropriate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he was struggling with, and that was his solution, I think, to say, let's take both, you know. We don't know, but we don't know what is the proportion of which. Might be, you know, this third answer allows for both.
I just think that Varela's take on that complementary activity or inactive activity goes beyond the epistemological claim, goes onto the ontological ground when he speaks of the complementarity of, say, bees and flowers and so on. You know?
Yeah, I think, no, I don't think this claim goes on, but he goes on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, and of course, his claim was made from perception.
Yes.
Not perception of experience, but I think it can be transferred. But yes, of course, he's interested also in ontology, and that's quite okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is the problem. This problem is called sometimes called refrigerator light fallacy. You understand why? Because you never know whether light is on when you close the door. Or Varela and the Praz and others call it with Ball, actually, I think he wrote this word. They call it excavation fallacy. You understand why excavation? Because when you open the pyramid for the first time, the air comes in and spoils stuff, you know. So by observation, by excavation, you change the stuff that you are excavating. But it doesn't matter. And for some people, this problem, this fallacy, is the reason why we cannot study experience. Okay? But there are some other people, this is from the book On Becoming Aware, his posthumous book by Varela and Depra and Vermeersch. They are just quite keenly aware of this problem, but they are clear that we should not abandon the research because of that. And I'm, of course, standing with these guys. Okay? So they say, yes, how do, they ask this in the introduction of the book, they ask the question, so how do we know that we are not deforming or even creating what we claim to be researching? Okay? And we don't. But I will show you that there is no, that this is not a problem. This is a weird thing, it's a curious thing, but it's not a dead sentence. Okay? So just before I show you how I propose to solve this problem, I would like to remind you what we are researching. What is the domain of research? So the domain of research is the things as they present to us. Okay? It's not, imagine that this is all we have about the world, that we don't have a God's picture, that this is some wood and something, you know. This is all we know. Okay? Imagine experience in something like that. So we see a certain part of something, but we don't know what is that something. Here, of course, you know, because when the day comes, the sun comes up, you can see the everything, or you can measure it, whatever. But in experience research, there is no way to know what is outside of there, and this is the only information you get. Okay? So we observe, we are studying things as they appear to us.
It's like sort of like tunnel vision, right? And like you move around.
Yes.
You know what's up here. You have to move your tunnel up to here, right?
Yes, but in tunnel vision, I mean, this is sort of medium metaphor, because there we have the sense that we know this is the ground and so on. But in experience, there is no other way to reach this domain. Only way is to show that your let's say torch of your consciousness or your awareness, and you see something. You know. So it doesn't matter if you go left and right, you will see the same thing. Not at all. Not necessary.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So just to remind you what we are studying. So if it's like that, then it really is important to know which way, how you hold your torch. It's not just what's there. So and this is where the solution lies. What we need to embrace is that we are not studying some observation-independent reality. We are not studying like engineers studying something that you look away or somebody else comes and will observe exactly the same thing. We are studying something that is co-constructed, at least, if not completely constructed, let's say co-constructed or enacted through our observation. And this is a weird one, if you imagine. So, as a scientist, suddenly I get a responsibility for my results. You see what I mean?
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
understand with precision that
Yeah.
concept of construction. Would constructing what you see is synonymous to revealing what you see?
No. I said co-constructing. Construction would mean that you make it.
Right.
So that with observation you just made stuff.
And when you reveal
And when I say co-constructed or enacting, I said I'm agnostic, but I'm quite sure that a part of what I see is there because of the special characteristics of my observation. Perhaps there was something also already there before.
and uncovering or revealing doesn't do the job.
No, because that would mean that it was there.
It was there in a way, but the way it reveals itself, it can be perhaps the efficient part, you know, in order to be revealed, the way it reveals itself. I mean, because that chair reveals to us in a certain way, and then to apply in a different way. But it does reveal somehow, you know.
Yes,
But-
but this chair, you can think of it as being there independent of your observation. It
Right.
reveals to you in that way, another way.
Right.
But here, that's what I wanted to do with you can't. So you have to assume that the science you are constructing is partially constructing according to your way of observation. By the way, I think that it goes on for all the science. By the way, it goes on for quantum mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Niels Bohr was saying this 100 years ago. We should also tell psychology, he said, that they have exactly the same problem as quantum mechanics. Because in quantum mechanics, if you observe some particle as a particle, it will reveal as a particle. If you observe it as a wave, you will say, yes, I'm a wave. But you can never have both. So observation does something to this.
Okay.
So it's exactly the same here.
Okay.
So perhaps, these characteristics of one particular observation we call horizon. Horizon of reflection. Okay? So we need to study this characteristic. We cannot just be satisfied with the experiential data we get. We need to study this characteristic. And from now on, I would like to show you a little bit how we study that. Okay? So, but just one more. I don't know if any of you does Bayesian statistics or predictive coding. Have you heard about this? It's a very modern theory of brain recently. If you are into it, that this might help. So this is what we experience. This is our horizon. This is the stuff that was there before, and it's unknowable. Okay. So the sum of both is what we experience. This is and this is the equation how they do it. Doesn't matter if you don't know about it. Some people are very much into this, and this explanation could help. If you're not. So it's my horizon plus something comes together, and then I get the experience. Experience is not, remember the natural attitude I talked before. It's the sense that everything is just given to me as it is. And here we also have to admit it's not experience, it's also not just given. We do something to reflect. The reflection is an active thing. And we try to study it, what we do when observing experience. This is what we try to do in my lab. Okay? And it's not easy. So this is one preliminary way how we do it. Please don't be too picky about it. This is just work of one of my master students, and it's applied. But I think it's sort of the only way I see to study it from above. Okay. So what we did is we had for a couple of months we were sampling experience of 12 people. Okay. And then categorize it. You know, you see the sensations were here, moods and feelings, and then see, let's say there was altogether I think 60 samples. So we checked the experience of everybody's, let's say 60 times, and we said, altogether there were so many sensations, there were so many moods, so many visual experiences, and so on. And then, yes?
On the left, what is the number?
The number. This is just the number, how many occurrences. Okay, we found in BIPs, just a number, the frequency. Okay, so different modalities of experience. This is not the best possible categorization, but it's workable for this. Okay, so now we noticed that we can group these things, that we can group them in 4 signatures, 4 typical signatures, and that tells us what these particular 4 people do when they go into when they observe their experience. Okay? And you see that some people, for example, this I think is emotion, I forgot, moods or feelings, yes? Some people are very much into feelings, you know? When you ask them, what is your experience? You could say, they always have just feelings. No, they turn their attention towards feelings. Okay? And that produces a certain kind of experiential reports. Some people have very colorful, you see, but they have exactly say signature like that, you know. This is quite similar, quite often found, I have to say. Some people have something else, doesn't matter. But we can find, this is a very preliminary, but now we see that we can find, if we have enough data, we can find signatures of horizons. We can start suspecting where does this person look at when he or she looks at her experience. Okay? And we see that they definitely don't look at the same point. So this is what we do. This is one way. But this is a very crude way of examining. This is a very guessing. You know, perhaps we cannot divide. Perhaps this is really just emotional people, you know. So we cannot be sure about that, you know. It's a crude way to find out what kind of horizon these people have. But it's not a perfect way. So just to finish this part, yes?
Just a quick question. Can you talk a little bit more about how you sample the experience?
Yes, I'm tempted to, but this is a long story. I'm making so many shortcuts here. And then there's one line that is missing and so on. So this is called descriptive experience sampling. Is one of the techniques how we research experience. This is like very on par. These are the 2 most used and famous techniques. One is microphenomenology by Claire, and this one was sort of developed by Ross Halbert, a psychologist from Nevada. And you, at random moment, you have a beeper, and at random moment, you have an app on the phone, at random moments it beeps, and you write down, the participants write down the experience just before the beep.
Okay.
And then there is an interview. And the report is being then...
So a little bit like what Kahneman does?
Yes, yeah, exactly what Kahneman does. Just it's actually Kahneman. This method was developed sort of parallelly by Halbert and Csikszentmihalyi. But it has a quantitative version. So this is a qualitative version where you write down your experience. But you can Kahneman just gives you a questionnaire, and it's called sometimes he calls it thought sampling, or and it's a sort of dried up version of this. Yes, it's exactly like that. Just this is qualitative. Yeah.
But I didn't get. You gave us an example of criticism. Why is this crude? Because these people might be just emotional people, but I don't get it. Well, this shows that they are emotional people. What's the other option?
Well, the option is that they just look at their emotions. Because when you go and do some more deep interviews with them, everything else is getting revealed. Because these are, by the way, I didn't get, these are innocent people, you know.
So this is not a result of after questioning everything. This is what they spontaneously describe.
Yes, or, you know, and they did interviews, but the interviews were, this is a long story, so that's why I'm saying I don't want to go deeply in, but this has much more depth that it shows. Interviews were done, so we didn't suggest them anything. We didn't say, oh, you could look also there or there. Okay, you just what were you experiencing? We got rid of satellites, so on, but just what you feel you were experiencing in the first.
I understand.
You see, but it's much deeper than that, because one big part of this is missing. Because I don't want to talk about another horizon of the method, because now we can. I'm so tempted to go there. You know, we can detect which method was used, and here, if you saw the whole result, you will see, oh, this is descriptive experience happening. And we can also detect when people are doing microphenomenology, because the signatures become quite different. So this is much more, so I'm just trying to show that it's not like everybody sees all the experience. That's all I want to show, but we can talk about that later. I can show you the whole thing, and it's much more nuanced, okay? So don't ask these good questions, because it will last too long. But this is just I just wanted to show this, okay? That there are signatures to where we look at. Okay, and of course the question is, what is the difference? Oh, this one is more emotional, or this one always checks emotions. Is there a difference? Think about that. But the fact is that emotionals, at some point after, let's say, doing some microphenomenology, they will see all kinds of other experiences going on that were not noticed. Were they just not noticed before? Or were they created by the examination? That's the question. That's exactly the same question that I posed. Okay. So I claim that if we want to really understand it, and this is what we are doing, we are trying to get these characteristics in all possible ways. And at the end, I will show you how we do it through meditation. Okay, this is the last part, but I would just like, before that, we will skip that. At the last, just before we do that, I would like just to say, so obviously, if we go along this kind of thinking, we have to get rid of the idea that we are measuring something that's out there, which is the main point of natural science. Natural science believes that we are studying something out there, which is objective, meaning observation independent. We have to get rid of this notion if we try to do experience research. That's my plan. I'm not going to go into different kinds of horizons. So what does it mean for empirical phenomenology? So it is very close to natural science, natural science-based inquiry. I mean, most of cognitive neuroscience, okay, or in psychology. It's very close to it. It addresses very similar questions, but it's not it. Okay, it's not it because there is no objective domain of this investigation. And also, we need to adopt another attitude. Natural science is based on this. I could talk you how Galileo actually started this process, but we are trying to do the other way. We are trying to do the other way, as I showed before. We are trying to see everything as consciousness, as experience. So we need to adopt phenomenological attitude, And then the last tricky bit, which is crazy for psychologists. And we have to re-examine the relationship between the researcher and what psychologists call subject. Because think about that. Who actually is a researcher in a researcher's experience? Who is the main researcher? The guy doing the interview? Or the guy trying to go through his or her experience? Who is there a main principal investigator? And it's not clear. It's not quite clear. I mean, of course, the guy is setting up the research and doing best possible way of extracting data is very important. But if you have a person who is not interested about her experience, the results will be won't be valid. I can assure you that what I showed you before, I showed you just because I want to show you that there is a way also to research people that are not so interested in experience. There are some interviews that really go in depth into how to extract and how to get rid of all the constructions that memory brings and so on. But still, if you don't have people, if you don't have participants that are really interested in learning about their experience, by definition, you won't get good data. So we have to re-examine this question, and there are at least 4 problems we address by re-examining this. But the most important one is that. Okay? But the people normally say, I can't describe. We can help them, but if they are not interested in describing, we won't get good data, and so on. Okay? Right. And I think Varela also was going into this direction, because he said every cognitive scientist that is interested in experience must learn to research her own experience. Okay? So this is the last weird part and the last nail in the coffin of saying, oh, this is just a psychology or just a neuroscience. Okay? Because our epistemological ground is quite different. Okay, and now the last part, I'm promising in 5 minutes the torture is over. So the last part. So how then to do it? If you take all this into account, what to do? Okay? And one clue what to do is in this, let's say, duality between the natural attitude and phenomenological attitude. You see, I told that we are in natural world, we are interested in what is out there, and how does this present? And this how is normally described as we try to see your experience without judgment. Okay? And what does this resemble? What is this non-judgmental observed experience as it appears? That resembles very much to mindfulness. If you're heard about mindfulness, this is how they define it. Okay? There is now a big debate in the phenomenological world. Is this mindfulness or not? I'm not so much interested in it, but I call it meditation. Okay? So this is my group. This is the place where we are meditating. It's called the observatory. We go in the mountains, we're complete in a little house, not so little house, with complete silence. When we were hiring this house for the first time, I asked the owner, so but we really need silence. But then he said, oh, then perhaps don't come here, you know, because there is a stream passing by that's quite loud. I said, okay, we can manage with the stream. But there's no people around. It's like a kilometer around, there's no people. So what we do is we try to adopt a phenomenological attitude. We try to see everything as experience. That's all. Okay? This is what we try to do. We try to see everything as experience. This is, we have 35-minute long sessions, and during the session, at some moment, some random moment, it's interrupted by a nice gong, and we write down what we're experiencing. And then we get what 6 or 7 people were experiencing at the same moment of time. Okay, this is what we get. I'm not going to read it, but it can be very funny. So one thing we are studying here is what people actually experience when meditating. So not what are the meditation experiences. Aviva is studying that, the peak experiences of dissolution of self, the beautiful gems that come out of meditation. We are interested if somebody really wants to fart and cannot, or doesn't dare to, or hears other person farting, and all this is interesting for us. We call this, the paper we published, I don't know this quote, it's called ethnography of meditation. So we want to see meditation as it experience as it is unfolding, not just the particulars So this is one of the plans. But another plan of ours is to be able to be so sensitive to our experience to find our own horizons. Okay? To find how, if I can, see how I might personally, in this moment, how I'm approaching my experience, how I am, in phenomenological terms, turning towards my experience. And this is our holy grail, to detect our own horizons. Okay? This is from that paper that I mentioned. It's just the first attempt, you know. This is just how people do it, you know. These are the sessions, meditation days, and we ask people, what did you use? And this is very crude again, you know. So was it a mindfulness? Did you do some kind of mindfulness? Did you do just let things happen? Then in the paper you can find a definition what each of these means. Did you encompass? This was something that some people started, and you can see at the end, almost everybody took up this and then there's just a trust that meditation experience will come. Some of us have this, you know, just waiting for it to come. This encompassing, by the way, how we do it, we sample, people describe experiences, then I do interviews about these samples, which are, nobody else is in the room, just us two, but we record the interviews. And then everybody watches the recordings. So we don't do the you know, this peer pressure stuff, but still everybody is informed about what others are experiencing. So you can see this information led to sort of alignment of our horizons, slowly, but this is 1 year. This is 1 year, by the way. Okay? You see what I mean? So, to finish, it's also not, this is very close to some kind of spirituality, the research that we are doing, but it's also not the spirituality. Okay? Why not? First, it's not soteriological. We are very clear that we are not helping ourselves with this. It's not a therapy, despite the fact that we are always very happy after this. We feel so nourished after these sessions, but this is not the goal. And it's not soteriological. So we don't aim for enlightenment, although quite a number of mystical experiences happen during our research. Okay? But it's not the point, like in spirituality. It is open-ended. This is the most important. We don't know where we are getting. And by the way, we published this paper in Journal of Conscious Studies, and that was one of the editor remarks, you know. But we know the guru, etc., tells us where we are going. So how can you say you don't know? You know? No, we don't trust any gurus here. You know? We try to see where it will lead us. It might lead us to different spots. You know? So this is quite different, quite difficult to accept. And we are not there yet. And I'm ending in a similar note as Claire did. We want it to be falsifiable. We wanted people to replicate our results. We want people to, but it's still we are not there. You know? I think when we are able to say, oh, we got different results, and then see why, then this kind of investigation will become a real science. Until then, these are just little attempts of gathering flowers, like, you know, old naturalists like Humboldt did, you know, went around Mexico and South America and built and picked some flowers, draw the volcano and so on. You know? But to really make, let's say, more objectives, more intersubjective science, we need to be able to replicate. You know? We need to at least 2 or 3 groups to get similar results. You know? And I'm really pushing for that. And this is my last slide. I'm happy to report, and I feel that, like, we have now study of nature well established. We need to have a new journal and field which would be not called nature but experience. So that's my proposal.